Hey guys, would you believe that the move king to e4 by black is a total blunder in this position? It actually looks like one of the most logical moves in the position, but it's completely losing. We're going to talk about why, as well as one other really important lesson in just a minute. Let's take a look. All right, now before we talk about that endgame lesson, I want to mention this position right here. Both of these came out of the same game, by the way, so extremely instructive game. Let me actually back up and show you how we ended up in this position. So right here, my opponent played the move g3, and I noticed that it opened up this diagonal, which was going to force the king to move back to g1 because my rooks are controlling here. So I played it with the idea that I could come in with my rook and I would end up with this position right here. Now, this is a really good position. And if you look at the evaluation bar, you'll see minus 3.9, which is interesting when you look at this because rook for rook, knight for bishop, we both have 6 pawns. Why would the engine say that black is ahead by almost 4 points? Well, it has to do with the fact that this is a pin on the knight as well as a mating net on the king. So what do I mean by that? Let's just say I play a random move like king f7 and white decides to try to bring the rook over here. Guess what? That's checkmate. Okay, so that's the mating net. Also, the king can't move. You can't come up here because the bishop, you can't go in the corner, you just lose your knight. And so the king can't move, the knight can't move because it's pinned, and the rook can really only go back and forth between these two squares, otherwise they get checkmated. So all 3 of these pieces are totally tied up. Now, I saw that in the game. But what I was afraid of was this move right here. So for example, I was thinking like, what if I bring my king up, but what's going to happen after white captures? And then they take this pawn, and then they're probably going to go here and maybe chase my bishop away. And this is what I was afraid of. There's an idea here that Stockfish sees, and it's really fascinating. Now, I didn't see it, so I was afraid, and I went ahead and traded and went into this endgame, which we'll come back to in just a second. But before we do that, I'd like you guys to pause. What do you think the idea was that Stockfish saw here? What do you think Stockfish recommended in this position instead of capturing the knight? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, really it recommends any move, any other move, with my king or with any of my pawns. Let's just say king f7, for example, works. And here's the reason. After this capture, Stockfish says you have g4. This was the secret move that I just didn't see. And the point is that, again, we're trapping the rook so it can't move. We don't really care about this pawn. Like, yes, white can push that pawn. We don't care. Like, we could blockade it if we want. We could start doing stuff with our pawns, taking our time, moving our rook over here, getting in just the perfect position. And white can't do anything. The only thing white can do would be to move back and forth with their rook and push their pawns until they eventually run out of moves, right? That's why this position is so good for us, okay? And so this was the first lesson. When you have a piece that's pinned, when you have your opponent's pieces tied up, you want to think very, very carefully before you just trade off everything. Because most likely there's a better approach. Now, sometimes it is tricky. Like, this was not super obvious to see, right? You had to kind of think through, okay, what happens if this captures? Oh, I don't have to take back. I can push by, right? Not easy to see, but this is the kind of stuff that will really take your game to the next level. So I wanted to show you guys that. I missed it in the game and went ahead ultimately, and instead of playing like a move like this, I just traded, okay? But still, we end up with this endgame. Let me back up. Where I have a slight advantage. Now, why do I have a slight advantage? Even though it's 6 against 6, I have the advantage that this guy is already a passed pawn, which means it has a clear path to becoming a queen without any pawns stopping it, right? There's no pawns here or here that would take my pawn. There's no pawn blocking it. Now, there is the king, but it's still considered a passed pawn. White does not have that. None of these are passed pawns. Any of these pawns are going to get captured on the way to becoming a queen. So a lot of the times what you can do is use that pawn as sort of like a decoy, and then you abandon it at the right moment and you send your king over and take all these pawns. So that was my plan. I said, I'm just going to bring my king up, and eventually I will, you know, give it up and come over here and take these pawns and win. And so I said, all right, I'm just going to, you know, wait till white kind of runs out of moves and wait till I think it's the right moment, and then I'll go and do that. So that's what I did. I played a5, played b6, I played h5. And right about here, I felt like I had accomplished what I was trying to do, right? I played king to f5, and I'm like, okay, what is white going to do? He's going to run out of moves very quickly. I'm just going to keep shuffling back and forth, and eventually white's going to run out of pawn moves, and then I'm going to come in and take the pawns. So king to f5. My opponent played the move b4, and I said, all right, well, I guess I'll just take this. Why not? Trade it off and then keep doing my plan. Watch the eval bar carefully, guys. Watch it very carefully. Did you see that? Totally threw away a 7-point lead in one simple decision to trade these pawns. This just goes to show how precise you have to be with king and pawn endgames and how so many little details matter, okay? So I'd like you guys to pause. What do you think the correct move was here? What should I have played instead? Well, if you had a chance to do that, the move a4 would have been much better. I think king e5 also would have worked for complicated reasons, but a4 is just the easy way to do it. Now, why would this make such a big difference? Well, the reason has to do with White's idea behind what happens after this. So let's go ahead and move forward, and then we'll come back to the a4 line in a second. So after this, my opponent captured. I played king to e5. I'm still thinking I'm totally winning here. I'm like, I don't see any problems with the position. Now, at this point, my opponent missed the drawing idea and played king to e2, which was bad. He should have played b5, which looks very weird, right? It looks like, wait, what is going on here? Here's the deal. If I decide to go for the pawns right now and abandon this guy immediately, the problem is that there's these little guys over here. These h pawns actually ruin my plan. Okay, if these pawns were gone, I could simply do what I was intending. Abandon the pawn, come over here, take these guys, and I'll win. However, if I go for that route now, look what White's going to do. He's going to come over here, take this, and get a queen of his own, right? And I'm not going to be in time to prevent that. Yes, I can move somewhere. He's going to move somewhere. And look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves. 1, 2, 3, 4. White's going to get a queen as well, right? And so I can show you this is going to be a draw. We're both going to have a queen, and nobody's going to really be able to win. White gets a queen, I get a queen, right? This is probably a draw. Lots of checks, and nobody can really get out of the checks, and we each have a pawn here, whatever. So that's the issue. All right, so we just talked about what happens if I go straight for the pawns in this position with king to d4. White does the little race, and we saw what was going to happen. I had actually planned for this move, and what I had planned to do was instead of going for that right away, I was going to go here just to waste some time. I thought if he pushes now, I can just take it. My king is going to be able to catch this guy, no problem, and I have this protected passed pawn. I'm going to be fine. And therefore, he's going to have to move back. And so once he moves back, I'm going to come up, and then he's going to go over or whatever, and I'm going to come over and then win. That was my plan. The problem is as soon as I go here, White has the amazing move c5. It looks like no way can White do this. I have my choice of like, how do I want to capture things? And none of them work. If I take this way, he's coming over here. Guess what? I can't catch this pawn because I'd like to be able to go here and stop it. I can't. I have to go here, and then I'm too slow, and he gets a queen, right? So that doesn't work. And if I take this way, well, this pawn is too far. He just pushes, and he's gone. He gets a queen before I can do anything, and I'm just losing. This is actually a losing move, even though this is what I was planning on playing to try to win the game. It's absolutely incredible, and it goes to show the power of creating a passed pawn at just the right moment. And so there's lots of different pawn breakthroughs that show up in chess. I don't think I've ever seen one quite like this before, where the king is so close and yet still out of position, right? So this is amazing. Definitely remember this one, guys. If you ever see two pawns against three like this, if they're advanced far enough, which is kind of the key here, and the king is out of position, you want to be looking for a breakthrough opportunity. And there's nothing that I can do as black here. And you can see the eval bar there. I'm totally lost. So amazing stuff. Now let's go back to the original position where I traded the pawn and talk about why a4 was better. Let's see right here when I captured, you might be wondering, how does a4 change any of that, right? So that's the question that I pose to you. How does it change it? How does a4 change the line that I just showed you guys? So here is the difference. After we play a4, let's say White tries to do the same thing with b5. We come over. White comes here. We come up. Whenever White goes for this plan, we're going to go for a new plan. It's White's turn. Of not taking these guys. We're going to go here and take this pawn. And this is a new option that wasn't available to us before. But now, notice how much faster this pawn is from the other lines. Now, look at this. 1, 2, 3. We already have a queen, and white is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's way late. Also, it stops that square as well, so that's even another bonus. So that's why we needed that extra A pawn, because it was further advanced and it gave us this other option. Okay, so this is why king and pawn endgames are extremely tricky, and you have to be really careful about every decision you make, right? Like I was thinking in my mind, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to trade, whatever, right? Who cares? That was a huge mistake. Okay, now let's keep going actually with the game, and I want to show you something else that happened. So this is the real game. I played here. He went back, right? He didn't see that idea of b5. Okay, and I said, all right, great, I'm coming in, and he played this move, c5, and I thought to myself, okay, I see what he's trying to do. He's hoping that I take like this, right? And then he's going to push this pawn and get a queen. But I said to myself, I'm too smart for that. I see what he's doing. I'm going to take this, and now whatever he does, I'm going to take it, or if he goes here, I'm going to come over here and take it, and I'm going to win, right? I win here. The problem that I missed is that after this, not this move, he messed up. He could actually play king e3, and when I take this, he goes king to d4, and guess what? He's getting my pawn. And this is a draw. So even there, I messed it up, right? So let's go back. What should I have done instead? I played king to d4, he played c5. I needed to play b takes c5 this way, because now if he takes, well, I'm going to take, and this way he doesn't get my pawn, and if he pushes, I can just take here, and I'm still catching this guy, right? And so again, we see another moment where a casual decision on my part was actually a mistake, right? I just took the pawn thinking, oh, this is fine. No. I needed to think through it a little bit more and go with the precise b takes c5. So I hope you guys understand like how tricky king and pawn endgames are. Like you have to be extremely careful with your calculations, and you have to consider every little possibility because it might affect the outcome of the game. So I hope you guys learned something from this. It was an eye-opening game for me. I learned a lot, and I wanted to share those valuable lessons with you guys. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.